How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for willing to do this.
Pleasure.
So I can just start from the very beginning. I know that you originally wanted to pursue psychology instead of acting, or yeah, was that correct?
Uh, I've always wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
I, ever since I was a little tiny, little, ever since I can remember, I was 4 years old and making up plays in my basement. And I always dreamed of being an actor, and I don't know where that came from. But when I went to, I did all the school plays. I won the school drama award. But somewhere along the lines, when I was young, somebody told me that I wasn't pretty enough to be an actor, and I didn't have big enough boobs, or I just didn't have the look for it, and
Mhm.
that I wasn't ugly enough or funny looking enough to be a character actress. So I thought the smart thing to do would be to study psychology. So it's not really that I wanted to do psychology, but it felt like the next best thing to me because it was about human beings and the human soul and things like that, and connecting with human beings and helping us heal and get better, which to me that's what acting is about.
Mhm.
So that's where you heard that. That's what that was.
Okay. And what prompted you to decide to move to France and live in France?
When I was in, I did 2 years of college, and I wasn't very happy there. I hadn't really found myself, and as you say in French, I wasn't comfortable in my skin. I wasn't good in my skin,
Mhm.
and I really missed. I'm part Danish, and my mother was Danish, and half of my family is Danish. And I thought, well, why don't I go home to Denmark and study in Denmark for a year? And then I thought, well, I can always go back there. Let me go to a country I don't know as well and study there. So I chose France, and it just called to me. I've always loved France, and I've always, uh, it feels like home to me. So I went there to study to study French for a year, and study theater in French and study psychology in French. And um, yeah, I kind of got away from, you know, all the drugs that I was doing in college, and just dropped into a new life there, and just loved the culture and the beauty and the mysticism of the city. Um, and when I was there, I took an internship as a dialect coach, and it ended up going very well. And they offered me a full time job the following year. And I had a choice of going back to Tufts University and getting um, my psychology degree, or staying in France and being a dialect coach for French actors, and doing what I love. And so I stayed for another year. And while I was doing that, I was coaching actors on set, and I was coaching famous French actors in their home. And one day on a set I was coaching on, the director said, "Oh, little Karen, she's cute. So let's give her a role." So I had a little role in a French TV series. And then I got a French agent. And then I got into the Royal Superior National Academy of Dramatic Arts in
Oh,
France, which is sort of the most prestigious acting school in France, and where they actually pay the students who get in to go there. We get subsidies, and I was actually paid. I had a subsidy to go there and study there, and I studied Racine and Molière and even Shakespeare in French, and really worked on my French. And then I stayed in France for about 16 years, working in French television, theater, movies, and then I started doing a lot of voiceover as well there.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask because it says that your first credit was a TV series called Counter Strike.
Mm. Not my first credit, but probably one of the ones that's listed on IMDb. Yeah.
Yeah. I know the did you just take really easily to being in all those various film projects and TV projects that you were in over there?
Yeah. Yeah. It was just wonderfully fun.
And what prompted you to move back to or well move to Los Angeles?
Um, I think, you know, we go to high school and there's this certain point, like it's time to leave high school and graduate to college. And there's a certain
Mm.
point we go to college and it's like, no matter how much we love our college, once we've kind of learned what we need to learn there, it's time to move on to our next life stage. And I feel like in that way, I'd sort of graduated from the experiences I was having there. And I had always wanted to be in American film and television, and I
Mm.
just didn't when I was younger because somebody told me I wasn't pretty enough. And it's just that's always called to me. It's always been a yearning. And my mom died around that time, and she was very young. She was 59 when she died, and she
No.
died of cancer. And it made me sort of look at my own bucket list and look at it made me realize that life might be a little shorter than I thought. And it kind of made me look at what do I want to do? What are some of the things I want to do with my life before I pass? And who knows when I'll pass, Maybe I'll live to 100, maybe I'll, won't even live as long as my mom. I don't know. So I kind of looked at things and I looked at this yearning to live and work in the States in Los Angeles and do American film and television. And I sort of did this thing where I imagined myself on my deathbed, like, would I regret more having done it and failed, having gone to Los Angeles and failed, or would I regret more never having tried and not knowing?
Hmm.
And I realized that I would regret never having tried and not knowing.
Right.
So, so I thought, okay, well then, even if I'm going to fail, I got to go try. And I did, and I started getting tons and tons of voiceover work, and I've, been abundantly working in voiceover ever since. And I started booking films and TV, and I work daily as a coach as well for actors. And I'm just so grateful to abundantly make my living doing what I love and working with creative, talented, inspiring people.
Hmm. Yeah, and based off of that, I can just ask to, do you have any particular advice for people that want to move to LA? Like, is it different now than, is like your advice different now than what it would have been back then?
Um, it's a little different because of COVID, I'd say. I mean,
Yeah.
it's networking is not the same as it used to be, but you come to town, you get your headshots. I think if you want to specifically come to LA, um, make sure that you have, you know, good competitive headshots. Like, so shoot with somebody who does professional headshots in Los Angeles, so that they're competitive for the market and so that you look like you're a professional and you know what you're doing. And also, it's really important to have some kind of credit or a demo reel because agents and managers need to see your work.
Hmm.
So, whether you stay where you are and do as many student films as you can and start to build up a demo reel, or just come to Los Angeles and do as much non-union work and do as much, um, student films as much as you can. Get yourself on Actors Access, get yourself on casting networks and submit yourself, get your photos up there and submit yourself and just do as many projects, whether they're paid or not, as you can, so that you have material for a demo reel so that you can go to an agency and go, okay, here's my work, and they can see your work. And I say to everybody, like I used to say to everybody, do as much theater as you can. And that's a little harder in this atmosphere right now. Hopefully that'll open up.
Hmm.
But take acting classes, that's a really good way to network too. Right now, a lot of acting classes are still on Zoom, but
Yeah.
the work is very high quality. Wonderful acting teachers giving class on Zoom right now. So I would suggest all of those things. And you can even, like, the great thing is if you're not in Los Angeles, you can still find a Los Angeles acting coach and start working with them from wherever you are, you
Hmm.
know. So
Yeah, I know that another big anime person that does, you know, virtual teaching right now is Leah Sargent. I was just talking to her.
Oh, I love Leah. Leah and I met when I first got here and we started working together. She's wonderful. She's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. She's
Mhm.
magical.
And so it says that one of your first voice credits would have been in the Dune video game.
The one that's on IMDb, I have many more before that. I mean, I did so much voiceover in France that isn't even begin to be on IMDb. I did hundreds and hundreds of projects over there. A lot of original animation because in France, um, they'll often do their original animation in English
Yep.
so that it can sell internationally better. And then I dubbed tons of stuff over there into English. So I have like probably hundreds of thousands of credits for those 16 years that IMDb doesn't even touch. But I was in Dune, and that is a major credit that I did over there a little a long time ago.
Do you remember the process of that? Since obviously that's a big name title to be involved with.
Um, I just remember it was a lot of fun, and it was with a very good studio over there, and it was just a lot of fun. Yeah.
And when you got to LA, since you had already done so much voice work in France, was that what you wanted to pursue instead of on camera, or was it both?
It's both. It was both, and is both.
Yeah.
It was for me. It's because of my years and years and a very successful voiceover credits. It was much easier to come to the LA market and just get an agent right away and start working. And so it was kind of like, let me come over here and make sure my rent is paid and do the thing that pays the most money the quickest. So for some people, you know, their bread and butter job when they come to LA might be bartending or waiting tables,
Mhm.
you know, or being a personal assistant or working at Starbucks. And mine, gratefully, was voiceover. Let me come and, you know, do the thing that I know I can easily start booking and paying my rent with. So I dove into that, and that just opened up very, very quickly.
Yep.
And then I could start. Then I could invest in, you know, all my new headshots and getting an agent and starting that process of, you know, the casting directors and everybody in France knew me, but it takes a little while to come to a new market and have, you know, the casting directors get to know you, get to know your work, have agents get to know you. So then I could support myself and have that world open up for me as well.
Mhm. So did you, once you got there, did you start falling into anime pretty quickly?
Very quickly. Yeah. It happened the first year I was there.
Okay.
I started doing stuff right away for Bang Zoom and for New Generation, New Gen. And then it was just a domino effect. I worked for one company, they got to know me. Oh, you should work for these people, or you should meet these people. And I just started doing tons and tons of anime very quickly.
Do you remember what your first role would have been?
This is not my very first role, but it was among the first. Haibane Renmei.
Okay, yeah, that's a really cool show.
Beautiful, beautiful show. Yeah. I still have so much affection for that show. It's just so artistic and yeah, gorgeous. And then there was something called Babylon, I think.
Oh,
Lex Lang directed that. Haibane Renmei, that was Jonathan Klein who directed that. One of the earlier ones, I played a character named Ren, who was a robot. God, I can't remember all the names. If you scroll down to my first anime credits here on IMDb, I can tell you about them.
yeah.
But the one that I remember that stood out as one of the first was Haibane Renmei, and Babylon was one of the first two. But there was a whole bunch of them way back when.
Yeah, well, because there's stuff like Ayori Aoshi and
Yes.
Mirage of Blaze.
Yes, that too. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, read me some more.
Uh, I'm not sure if you remember being in the Sakura Wars movie. That was just one. That was like a one-off thing.
Must have been. Yeah, 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 yeah.
But let's see. Oh, Strawberry Eggs was
I made strawberry eggs. That was a very early one. Yep. That I did right after Hibernate Renmei. Yes, yes.
Wild Arms also.
Yep, yep. Wild Arms, totally.
And I have talked to a few other people that were in X, and I know that you had kind of a bigger part in that too. Do you remember much about that?
I don't. I remember it was a Bang Zoom, and I remember going to the studio to record it, but I don't remember. If somebody were to show me a clip of the character, I'd be like, oh my God, yes.
Okay.
But I don't remember at this moment.
Or Chobits.
Yes, yes, I remember that. That was so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cute,
So
wholesome show. Oh, and then please teacher was that
please,
same time.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that was so sweet. Please teacher was so sweet.
And one of the ones that I watched back then and still enjoyable to revisit is Marmalade Boy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Marmalade Boy. Oh, so sweet. Yes, yes.
And what
Oh,
is?
Buko Rankin, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, one of the first people I talked to was Steve Staley, and I know that was the lead role for him.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I was about to ask because I know that you do a lot of little girl voices. What is your process of getting into that kind of headspace? I guess it just depend on what the character is.
It depends on what the character is. I think I kind of look for their, kind of touch base with their soul, like Nanako from Persona,
Yep.
who's a well-known one. She's just so sweet. And I just try and go into that like little girl that just wants to like be with her little brother or just wants to make people happy. And like I tell people in terms of doing like kids' voices, those high-pitched voices, you have to be very careful because if you just do a high-pitched voice, you can do a high-pitched voice, but after a while, it's just going to be irritating if you just do a high-pitched voice over and over. And there's some people who have high-pitched voices, and if you just do the high-pitched voice over and over and over again, it's just going to get kind of irritating, and you're going to wish that they shut up or want to slap them.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you dip in and you find that the spirit of that kid inside you. So if I was like to go and look for Nanako in there. Hi, I'm Nanako, and I'm really happy to be here, and I really want to go to Juness. If you could go to Juness with me, because my big brother is going to meet me there. Oh, you're making me shy. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi. Bye. But the process of not just doing like a high-pitched voice, there's a lot of people who come to me as a coach and they're like, oh, people say I have a good voice for anime, but it's not just a high-pitched voice, it's bringing that spirit into it.
Right.
And whether it's a dark and pensive little girl, whether it's I played Anna in Monster, and she isn't a little girl, she was more of a teenager, but her she wasn't the typical teenager, and she was very complicated and complex.
Yeah.
So kind of to drop into that, So yeah, you have to place the voice in a different place in your instrument. So my speaking voice right now is right here. I'm going to put it more on the roof of my mouth and my nasal passage to do the little girls. But you have to also bring their spirit through at the same time.
And I wasn't sure. Have you done boy voices too? I couldn't see any, but okay.
Yeah, I do a whole bunch of them. I'm trying to think some of the more well-known ones. I did a boy for Gundam.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Prince, when he was a kid. Let's see, what other animes have I done little boys for? I do a lot of original animation boy
Yeah.
voices. I'm just trying to think any like in anime that you might know. I do a lot of smaller boy voices in anime, um, but yeah, in different animations, I do a bunch of them.
Well, just generally speaking too, I always like to, whenever I'm talking to voice actresses that also do a lot of boy voices, I think the process can be different for everybody because I know it was
Right.
different with Wendy Lee when I talked to her. And um, is there a particular method that you have?
Well, for me, so technically and vocally, a boy's voice is much more in the chest,
Hmm.
right? So you think of a woman's voice as more, it's more a head voice, so more up here. Um, Whereas a boy's voice, I'm going to drop my voice much more into my chest. So it's much more here. You really hear like it's dropping down here. Whereas my normal voice is more in a head voice. And then the other thing, like the two major things that come into play, and then you start working with the character themselves. Um, and the other thing is women, we have a lot more music, you
Hmm.
know, wow, and that's great. And, you know, guys, like I can compare how you're talking right now. Guys tend to be a little bit more monotone. Like a girl would be like, wow, that's great. Tell me more. And a guy would be like, wow, that's great. Tell me more.
Hmm.
You know, like kind of how you're talking to me. I'm a little bit more animated and a little bit more, you know, my voice goes up and down and really, and that's great. Really? Wow. And you'd be like, really? Wow. Cool.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it's really about simplifying for the guys, um, and not allowing all of that um, modulation that we have as girls.
Was there anybody, um, since obviously there's so many women in anime that do boys' voices amazing, was there anybody that you shadowed for that when you started doing that, or was that just something that you naturally could do?
I learned to do boys' voices in France. I worked
Okay.
with, she's not a voiceover artist anymore, but like many, many years ago, like decades ago, I did a magazine called Hi Kids with little cassette tapes that
Oh,
would be like stuck in the magazine, for children, for French children, teaching them to speak English. So we did all kinds of, it was my very, very, very beginning year of my voiceover career. I was like 19 or 20. And um, there were four of us who were recording all of these tapes. We'd meet once a week and we'd record everything. And I was just thrown into it. And without any schooling or teaching in it, I was an actor, so I used those tools. And I worked, there were four of us, so we were two women and then two men. And the other woman was a gal named Mimi Seaton, who I don't think she does that much voiceover work anymore. She's a psychic now, very
oh,
talented. But she used to do the best boys' voices, and she would get very physical with them. She'd do this thing with her fist, like, "Hey, mom, where's the peanut butter?" And she kind of do this thing with her body and her fist. So I'd go home in front of the mirror after watching her, and I kind of use the physicality that she would use, and it would really
yeah.
help me get into it. So, so at the beginning, when I was doing boys' voices, I would really kind of put this like kind of physicality just to get my grounding lower down. And so she was sort of the one who inspired me for that. And then I've just been watching some of the others, and I learn a lot from actual boys, kids. Like I
Yeah.
listen to the actual kid's voice. Like I love the kid who does Nemo, did Nemo.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'll listen to the real kids and see if I can approximate my voice closer to them.
And going off of that is, this is probably obvious, but especially with anime, you think it's important to always bring a physicality to the dubbing process.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, unless you know, unless you're an AI or a robot, but which happens a lot. But otherwise, I mean, characters live. You know, they're like getting up from a chair, you know, or you know, they're riding in a spaceship, you know, or you know, they're talking into a comm, you know, or they're you know, hey, come over here, come on, you guys.
Hmm.
And as much in front of the mic as I can get that physicality in, you know, or when they're talking, they're lifting something, you know. Otherwise, you know, you have somebody lifting something, but if they're lifting something heavy, but you don't allow that to be in your physical body, then it won't quite feel as real. When I coach, I talk a lot about embodying a voice. So people think that voice acting is acting like with your voice, but it's actually allowing your voice to be embodied.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you want the movement, you want the, you know, if they're running, you know, you want that. You don't want to be like, you know, I'm talking and I'm running, but like, so you think we're going to get there in time? Oh, wait, there's the bus. Let's go. You know, that kind of thing, as opposed to like, you know, you think we're going to get there in time? Oh, there's the bus. Let's go. You know, if they're running, you really want to feel it. And I direct as well. And that's one of the things that I love helping actors with, is finding that physicality. You know, it's just so much more alive and so much more real and so much more delightful and fun.
When you, in terms of playing like robotic or not very emotional characters, when you got I guess in the Persona series, was that, well, I guess she does open up more, but most of the time she, you know, it's really constrained. And how was that for you to try to still bring emotion to her character while maintaining that kind of voice?
That was fun. I guess is really special in that way because she actually yearned to be human, and
Yep.
she was willing to give up all her powers to experience emotions and experience love, which is so moving to me. So, you know, I love doing AI and robotic voices. I find them pleasing and fun. But it was particularly fun voicing her because there are these little moments I could let a sort of a personality, you know, peek through. And then the more she became more and more human, the more I could allow that to happen. And, you know, with the directors, with Valerie Aram, we would modulate it. We would find, and Keith would direct too, Keith Aram, we would modulate it. We would find, you know, just the right roboticness for where she was in the stage of the game or the, you know, or the storyline. Like another very pretty well-known robotic voice that I did was Isha in StarCraft.
Yep.
And that was very fun because she was very robotic, but there was also, she really had a connection to Kerrigan. So that kind of connection and, you know, her wisdoms or her warning, like all that, we could let that subtly shine through. And also, Isha was human at one time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and she became this kind of creature thing. So that was really fun to do.
And do you, is it more difficult, in your opinion, to do voiceover for Japanese games or other kinds of games?
I don't think there's any difference in difficulty factor. Sometimes it'll depend on the game or the project itself, you know, the anime itself, or just the level of difficulty in the particular character. But I wouldn't say that there's more or less difficulty in any specific nationality of product.
Okay. And going back to some other bigger roles you had in anime series that are more underrated, I know that you were Aoko in Tsukihime, just something that I really like too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Requiem from the Darkness, which nobody ever talks about that show.
Oh, occasionally fans do, and the fans who talk about it love it.
Mm-hmm.
Cecilia, she was so much fun. Super, super, super fun. Yeah, it's a cool show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's specific fans who will, like at conventions, will come up to me with it or to sign or to talk about. I'll be like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, we love that.
And so, how was it like for you to? Because obviously in Bleach, you are not only Soifone, but you're Momo too. Did you audition for both parts, or was one just given to you?
I auditioned for Soifone, and I think Momo Hinamura was given to me, I believe. I might have auditioned, but I believe, yeah. But I know I auditioned for Soifone.
Do you have a preference between either one of them, or?
Oh my gosh, I love them both so much, and they're so different.
Hmm.
They're so different. I love Soy Fum just because she's so badass,
Yep.
and I love her because people love her, and young women love her and do cosplay, and it's just cool to have a real badass character to role model with. And I also love how she just gets so lovesick.
Mm.
She goes from this badass character to being totally lovesick, and it's just adorable. And Momo, I love her so much. She's a very old soul, and she just has such depth and innocence and sweetness to her, and yet at the same time so much wisdom stuck in this sort of little girl's body. And the challenges that she undergoes is just heartbreaking.
Hmm. And I did ask Steve and Wendy, since I know that you were in a few different shows that Michael Lindsay was in. Did you know him very well since he passed away?
I didn't get to work with him in person.
Oh, okay.
I never did. I heard wonderful things about him, but
Okay. And yeah, I don't think you were a major character in Naruto. Just to feel like here and there.
I just get hired here and there to do, you know, this character in this episode or this character in that episode.
Is there much that stands out to you about being in Scrapped Princess?
Um, no, just fun and sweet,
Hmm.
super sweet. Yeah.
I suppose, or and like besides Bleach in that time frame, that since you mentioned Monster, that probably stands out more to you.
Monster, Monster is actually one of my very favorite anime on this planet.
Oh,
Um,
yep.
I just think I think it's brilliant, and I think it's sad that it didn't get released as as widely. I think it's exquisite. I think it's a really rare piece of art. Um, Beautifully done. The storyline is mind blowing,
Yep.
um, super disturbing, beautiful. The art itself is just beautiful. I had a chance to meet the creator of it last year. He came to Los Angeles and gave a gave a whole talk, and also started drawing for us there. And yeah, that was like a year and a half ago. It was right before lockdown. Um,
Okay.
and I think he's brilliant. I think he's a brilliant artist and a brilliant storyteller. And I think anybody who enjoys the kind of dark, realistic anime should find a way to get their hands on it and watch the whole series, because it's mind blowing.
Hmm.
Um, Somebody had gotten an offer on a filmmaker who wanted to make a live action out of it. Guillermo del Toro
Oh yeah.
optioned it for a while to make a live action movie out of it. I don't think that ever happened, but I think he still has the rights for it.
Yeah, you would think with how well received that series is too, that it definitely would happen.
Yeah.
And do you think in terms of anime, that's probably the darkest thing that you've worked on? Like the darkest headspace you've had to get into, or is there something else?
Yes, except um, um, the vampire one with all the Germans.
Oh, Helsing,
Uh,
yeah.
Helsing. This is pretty friggin' dark. and and my character Henkel, um, who is not a main character but still pretty prominent.
Yep.
Um, yeah, she got her whole side of her face shot out at one
Yep.
point, and so in order to get that sound, uh, I was talking like this. So we recorded like a couple hours, like with my hand in my mouth like that, because her whole side of her face had gotten shot out. Yeah, that Van Helsing was pretty freaking dark. And then the other thing that's very dark, which is a more recent one, maybe you see it in your list there. I play this character with like Medusa hair. If you look on IMDb or something,
Is it
it's a
Berserk?
very, yes, Berserk.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty dark.
Yeah,
All that stuff,
it was
stuff
cool.
that I have to do. Yeah.
It was cool to see you in that role because that's Berserk has a huge following and really popular.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very dark. Um, Different dark, but yeah, that was very dark.
Mhm. It was cool because you really wouldn't know that the role like Heinkel and Helsing, you wouldn't know that that would be you because it doesn't sound anything like you. Um, oh yeah, and then you got to be a Ryder in the first Fate Stay Night series, which I also really liked.
Yeah. Love Ryder. I love her. I was so sad I didn't get to do her again. I don't know what happened with the casting or if they did it in Texas or whatever, but she was cool. Ryder's super cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, you know it was also dark, but in a beautiful way. Rose and Maiden,
Yeah,
um, Suginsu. She had a very dark and wounded past. And for people who know Rose and Maiden, there's a prequel that was made after the whole show where you really see Suginsu's her past and why she was so dark and evil, and how wounded she actually was, and that's just heartbreaking.
this is probably obvious too, but do you prefer playing villainous characters over uh, nice characters?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, there's some really sweet characters that I mean, I love getting to play anything, but I think the evil ones are more complex
Hmm.
often. I love complex characters. You know, the more complex, the more fun, the more like I can sink my teeth into them. I mean, but there's like in Lucky Star,
Yep.
um, which was just so innocent and sweet, you know, and I loved her, Miyuki. And she was totally innocent, totally sweet, totally ditzy, super smart, but ditzy. And that was just, I mean, when that show was over, I remember on the last day of recording, we laughed so much and giggled so much. And like after every take, the director would be like, Alex would be like, "Aw, aw." And like the whole show was just like an aw. Um, and I remember I got to my car and when I knew the series was over and I just sat in my car and cried because I knew I'd miss it so much.
Yeah.
But another one like that, I can't remember the name. I'm such a bad geek. I forget names so easily. Um, um, the one series you'll know it about the girls who are in the light music club. Did you see
You,
that? Say that again.
it's about a music club.
Yeah, the schoolgirls in a light music club, and I was their teacher. All the fans are like, who are watching this right now, are like, no, here's what it's called. Not magenta, magota, magada. I'll remember it before the end of the interview.
Okay. I'm pretty
Anyway,
sure.
that was. Say it again.
I'm sure I know it. I just
I'll
like.
find it. It's really well.
Okay.
Fans know it and love it. But that was like, she was really, really sweet, but she also had this dark rock star past. So she would turn into this like crazy, like hard rock star every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I like characters that are complex. And I like darker characters, I think, because I've spent so much of my life wanting to be kind and do good. And I think that's definitely so much like I want to be good. I want to be appropriate. I want to make people happy. I'm a people pleaser. And I think when I get to play the darker characters, I really get to dip into my shadow self and the parts of me that don't get to surface as much in everyday life. And I enjoy that.
Hmm. Is there, in terms of anime characters, is there someone that you relate to the most that you've played, or is there more than one that you can pick?
Ask me the question again.
Oh,
There's the stuff that I relate to.
Yeah, like if there's a character that you can relate to the most out of other characters, or if there's more than one.
My first instinctive answer is to say Anna from Monster, um, just because of uh, all the things she's known and everything she's gone through. And I think, not that I necessarily have in this lifetime, but I think that there's a sense of being connected to, I don't know, being aware of a certain darkness in our world as well as light,
Hmm.
and try to find my way through that in this lifetime. Who else do I relate to? I mean, so many in so many different ways, like Miyuki, I just relate to her because I feel like I'm ditzy
Hmm.
myself. And I just so easy to relate to that, like that innocence and ditziness. Um, uh, I just, there's a couple crazy ones that are sort of my inner cray cray. When I get to dip into my inner cray cray, I wouldn't say that it's me on an everyday basis, but it's sort of a relief to tap into that and let that cray cray out.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I relate to the innocence of Nanako. Um, and I relate to the just the beauty of, I guess, like wanting to love more.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, those are some of them. There's so many that I'm not mentioning, but
I was
I
gonna ask. I
relate
was
to the
gonna.
wildness of Poison.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was gonna bring up Callan too.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally, yeah, totally. Colin from Code Geass, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and her kind of living in everyday life, but realizing that she's stuck in the middle of a whole battle she never knew, and
Hmm.
having to step into that and kind of, just as a thought she was a regular schoolgirl and having to step into her power into a much bigger and more complex uh, mission that she has. Yeah, 100%. That's a good call. 100%.
And what was um, was it just a normal audition process for becoming the voice of Rouge in the Sonic franchise?
I don't even remember how that happened. I must have auditioned. Either I auditioned or somebody offered me the role. I don't remember. I don't even remember.
Okay.
I love Rouge so. Rouge is like, yeah, Rouge is like, there's some characters I get to play. Again, like the wonderful thing about voiceover is you get to play all this stuff, and as an actor, that you don't get to, live in your everyday life. And
Hmm.
I love her sexiness. I love her sassiness, and I don't get to walk around being that in my everyday life, and I love to be it as Rouge.
That seems like her voice is kind of just like an extension of your normal voice.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit more sexy intentions, and yeah,
Oh, I think the series that oh we're blanking on is K-On.
K-On! There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you. K-On! Yes, the Light Music Club.
I've talked to a few people that were also in the Dynasty and Samurai Warriors games, and I know you have been in those as
Yeah,
well.
fun, super fun.
And everybody I've talked to, they said that it was kind of more difficult because the director said that they wanted them to talk more like how people talked way back then, so it was difficult to emote more.
Mm. I really enjoy doing that. They'll call that, sort of mid-Atlantic
Yep.
in video games. Like it's not British, but it's not American, but it's sort of proper and more enunciated. And I love doing that. I love period pieces, like especially on camera, but also for anime and animation and even fantasy video games. I love that sort of timeless feeling, you know, that you get in a lot of the fantasy games as well. You know, a lot of the Blizzard games, you have this sort of timeless fantasy feeling, the Lord of the Rings
Yep.
and yeah, and yeah, for for that game there was a lot of that, and I really enjoyed doing that.
I do want to talk about some of your on-camera roles too. That I know that around that same time, that's when you got the role in Weeds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was super fun. Yeah, the role playing Jolene, the OCD SEC agent.
Mhm.
She it was just meant to be a one day, like a not a 2 day, 3 day guest star in one of the episodes, and they just had her in one of the episodes as a guest star. And the fun thing about that is when I auditioned for it, um, it looked like it was actually going to be more of a POC role, a person of color role, because when I went into the audition, um, the lobby, it was mostly like Asian Americans and African Americans,
Mhm.
uh, and what was interesting about that is I thought, oh well, I'm probably like one of their token, like, you know, Caucasian people. And so I didn't think I was going to book it. I didn't think I had a chance because I thought they were just going to bring me in, but they were really looking for something else. And it gave me a tremendous amount of freedom in the audition room because I said, oh well, they won't cast me, so I'm just going to have fun.
Mhm.
And I put on these little glasses and I geeked myself up, and I just really went for it, I guess, in a way that I might not have if I put a pressure on myself of like I have to be perfect. And I did my thing and I had fun doing my thing. And I guess because I was just so free and playful with it, I booked it.
Yep.
And then so I, you know, did that episode and I thought it was over. And a couple weeks later, my agent got a call from production saying that the Genji Cohen loved what I did apparently, um, enough to write me into the show. So
Mhm.
she wrote me into all of season 7, and I was supposed to be in season 8 as well, except that they just had too many storylines going and they needed to wrap up the show.
Yep.
So a couple of weeks before my shoot date, one of the producers called up my agent and said, "We're so sorry. We really want Karen in the show, and we love Jolene, but we just have too many um, storylines to wrap up, and we just hers is a storyline that it's not as essential as the others, so we have to cut it out." And I was heartbroken.
And this is something that I just like to ask um, actors that also do a lot of on camera. Was there ever anything that you potentially got to be a part of, like audition for or whatever, anything like that, that was something that became really iconic or major?
Um, I mean, I've been in a lot of iconic and major shows.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say that my part in any of them has been like particularly iconic, except that I believe that a movie that I shot a few years ago with Tom Six, who created the Human Centipede,
Oh.
a movie that's will be released at some point soon called the Onania Club, and that I do believe will become very iconic. It's very disturbing and very bold, and that will become iconic. It's so disturbing that he's had a hard time releasing it.
Oh.
Yeah, so look out for that one. We'll see how and when it's released. Um, I've been in a lot of iconic shows. I mean, I got to be in Silicon Valley and
Yep.
some really cool courtroom scenes. And for people who love horror, Creepshow has been hugely successful.
Yep.
And my role is a white trash hairdresser who's an evil biatch and gets her comeuppance is really so much fun.
Hmm.
Um, we, the hair and makeup, we decided that I was going to have really long, horrible fingernails for that. And so we put on these really long fingernails and this big bouffant hair that just got more and more bloody and screwed up as the show went on. And the nails were so long, like I've never had nails that long that I literally could not dress myself or like button my jeans or unzip my jeans, and I'd have to have a wardrobe person come into the bathroom with me and help me go to the bathroom every time because the nails were like so long and horrible. But so I've been in like iconic shows, and like the show Preacher, for people who like you know, comic book shows, and that's a, you know, a live action based off of a comic series
Yep.
that is just, I mean, that show is mind blowing. It is so well done. The cinematography in it is just mind blowing. It's just, that's a piece of art. Preacher is like, if people haven't seen it, especially people who like anime and who like that kind of stuff, it is just, I watched the whole thing. It's so good.
Mhm.
And I'm in season 2, and I got to play, you know, a really cool role of an evil German scientist, and being able to play a character that, you know, what was originally a comic book series. So the characters in some ways are bigger than life, but how do you take a character that's bigger than life and make them very relatable and very human, even though, you know, even though I had these little glasses and I was evil and I was speaking with a German accent, you know, how do you make that character still real and relatable and not like a cliche?
Mhm.
So that was super fun. And I've just had the privilege of being in the third
The
season,
Mayans.
Mayans MC. And um, for those people who don't know it, it's an offshoot of Sons of Anarchy. And it's a show that I don't think I ever would have watched, because it's, you know, about you know, a Latino motorcycle gang, and it's something that's not, I didn't think was so relatable to me. And I never, there's so many shows out there that you don't get a chance to watch.
Yep.
And it is just one of the most beautiful shows I've ever seen. It's poetic, it's iconic, it's so raw and so human. And every single actor in it, like to a T, every single actor is just um, humanly, just such a beautiful human being and salt of the earth. And it's one of the best written shows I've ever seen on TV, honestly. And I highly recommend it. And you know, it was during lockdown, and there wasn't, you know, most shows were shut down, and I had an opportunity to audition for this. And it's a small recurring role, so I'm on 6 episodes. But I'm not like, you know, the storyline's not about me. I play a meth addict on Meth Mountain,
Yeah.
which was really fun for me because I got to chat it up and got to drop into that experience. And so it was, you know, during lockdown when basically not many shows were shooting. And every month I got to go up to Santa Clarita and Palmdale and the desert, beautiful Native American Indian land, and just stay there all these late nights into the morning and watch the sunrise, being on Meth Mountain with all of these spectacular actors and these beautiful creators. So I highly recommend that show. So
Yeah.
I've gotten to be on, you know, and I've gotten to be on a lot of cool shows, you know, Criminal Minds, Desperate Housewives, you
Mhm.
know, I've had the opportunity, Bosch, which is also one of the best shows on TV. I just love that show. And I got to be a recurring character on Bosch. So I've just had a lot of cool opportunities.
Well, I was gonna ask about and Rolly just brought up in the Mayans. I can imagine that was that your most in terms of on camera roles, is that your most difficult role that you've had to really become that character?
Um, I'd say it's very different from who I am in everyday life, but I wouldn't say it was difficult in that it gave me, when I got on set and one of the producers and writers was telling me the character I play, her name is Florence. And she's like, oh, yeah, we're just really psyched about the character Florence. And I said, why? And she said, yeah, she's just like, she's all urge and she's all id and she doesn't care what anybody thinks and she just does whatever she wants.
Mhm.
And for me, it was just so freeing to play a character that was like that. Because I spend my everyday life like wanting to make sure everybody's happy and wanting to, be appropriate and do the right thing and do the loving thing. And being Florence, I didn't have to care about what was the right or loving thing.
Hmm.
I just got to be a hot mess. And I kind of, try and avoid being a hot mess in my everyday life. But I think, you know, I totally, the hot mess lives in me day in and day out, and I'm pushing it down, to keep it under control.
Hmm.
So it wasn't difficult, in that it wasn't. It was just freeing. It was just freeing. There's other roles that have been more difficult, like the Silicon Valley role was difficult just because it was a courtroom scene and I wanted to hit certain beats and wanted to have a certain tone. And,
Yeah.
there was kind of a steering of the situation in the courtroom situation that was kind of more challenging than just letting go and trusting, the wildness of the moment.
I know that you didn't bring up Marseille.
Say that again?
You didn't bring up your role in it's pronounced Marseille, right? Role is
Oh,
in,
in in what's it called again?
is it pronounced Marseille?
Oh, that when I was the dubbing Marseille,
Oh, that's what, okay.
when I was dubbing that Netflix, the French Netflix show. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, that was really fun.
It's cool that you still got to kind of revisit that aspect, even because that's not a very old show. It's like a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I've been lucky enough to work on a lot of French projects, and even use my French language for a lot of projects and stuff. Way back in the day, I played one of my first TV roles when I came to the States. Is I played a French maid on Gilmore Girls,
Yep.
and for the TV show Lost, I I played. I don't know if fans remember, but in the TV show Lost, there was a walkie-talkie with a French woman's voice playing over and over again in the walkie-talkie, and that was me.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Yeah.
um, so I still do a whole bunch of stuff in French, and or in French projects. Right now, I'm directing a animated series called Gus that originated in France,
Okay.
and it was created in France, but it's in English, and I'm directing it for Disney, and that's just very fun getting to work with the French creators and everything.
Hmm.
So I do a lot of shows still that originate in France, or so I get to touch into that and communicate with my French colleagues over there.
Hmm. And do you still actively do ADR for major movies and TV too?
Yeah, yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I know that a good amount of anime dub people also do that, and I know is that something that you also took to pretty easily?
Yeah, yeah, I love doing that.
Guess most recently, well, I guess I can ask you what the most recent anime you would have worked on. I'm not sure what order it is on IMDb, but
Cells at Work, I think, is the most recent one.
okay.
Cells at Work, Berserk, and there's another one that's very recent that, what's it called? Hunter x Hunter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was like crazy, crazy that too. I love the crazies.
And you're still in the Dead or Alive games as Helena?
Yeah. I haven't recorded one recently, so I don't know if there are more recent ones coming up that I have or haven't been involved in. But I've been like they usually call me for her, so
Okay.
I hope that will be the case. Continue to be the case.
And also with the Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, yeah. I continue to record for them. Yeah, doing a lot of League of Legends stuff recently as well.
Okay, yeah. And did you get you have a credit on Persona 5. Was that just like background voices?
Yeah, that was just smaller voices, but it was cool to be part of it. They wanted to switch up the cast, and all of us who were in persona, the other personas, they kind of wanted to put us a little bit in the back because we figured so prominently, and all the others, they wanted to kind of get new fresh blood.
Hmm.
But I wasn't invited to be some of the smaller voices.
I thought it was really interesting that in the cast list for the Final Fantasy VII remake, that literally like everybody is in that for background voices.
Yeah, that was super fun. And I got to be part of Spider-Man, which was super fun as well.
Oh yeah. And I know yeah, it says the most recent thing that you worked on was something for Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then a video game called Werewolf.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd forgotten about that one. That one had another name to it. I didn't know the name at the time. Very often we have other names when we record them, and sometimes we don't even know what they are.
I guess just generally asking, is there certain people in the anime dub circle that you're really good friends with more than others?
A lot of them. A lot of them. We're like a family. We're like a big extended family, and people have each other's backs. You know, we're constantly reaching out to each other, supporting each other. It's a really, really beautiful, supportive, loving community, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it's been nice that because I've been able to interview people that haven't ever been interviewed, like Terrence Stone.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
That's,
I'm not sure if you know Richard Cancino.
mhm. Yeah,
Okay,
Richard's really talented.
yeah,
He's very funny as well. Very dry humor.
yep.
Very talented. I'm gonna have to hop off soon because I'm getting ready. I actually have a video game session in a little while that I have to go,
Okay.
which I can't talk about, but I have to go do that in a little while, which is really cool.
Well, I was just about to say that I like to end every interview I do with asking, "What do you want your legacy to be?"
Um, hmm. I'd like my legacy to be that um, for the people who knew me or who have met me, um, felt seen and heard.
Hmm.
That they felt like people who have known me or spent time with me have felt that they can be even more themselves around me, that they feel that they're seen as a human being around me. I think probably that. And then maybe in terms of acting, uh, I'd love my legacy to be playing some really stirring, poignant um, roles, stirring, poignant, moving, humanly raw. Um, yeah, roles that kind of characters that kind of mark you and that you remember and that make you wake up, um, whether wake up in your heart or just are jarring. Yeah.
Is there a particular answer you have for like in anime fans in particular that discover your work from older series or anything that you've done that you want to take to what the like what you want them to take away from your performance?
Playfulness.
Oh yeah.
Playfulness. I think the playfulness of having, yeah, playfulness, diving into another world and creating an imaginary reality like we did when we were kids. You know, when you, as a kid, you know, go into your backyard and pick up a stick, and a stick was a sword, and a trash can lid is a, you know, is a part of your armor or whatever. And just that diving into another world and playing and getting lost in another reality. On my Instagram page, You say what you do. My Instagram is at Karen Strassman. And on my Instagram page, you say, like I say, actress, voiceover artist, coach. And I also say story traveler.
Yep.
People sometimes say storyteller, but I made up the word story traveler because I think actors' job is to travel into a story and open up a portal and reach out our hands and our hearts so that other people can jump into that portal and experience the story with us. But we have to go there first. We have to have like the balls to like go into the story world first, travel, so that other people can travel. We can open up a window and people can come to tether themselves to us and live the story with us. So playfulness and story traveling.
Well, thanks. This was fun to get to do.
Yeah, really fun.
I was glad that I could mention some anime roles of yours that don't really get brought up a whole lot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this will be on YouTube, yeah?
Yep.
And I'll put it on my YouTube and I'll put links to it as well so people go to your channel.
Oh, great. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Have a beautiful afternoon.
Yeah, you too.